Here in Parliament, I'm joined by our panel right now, the Liberals' Tim Wilson and Labor's Anne Ali. Very good afternoon to both of you. Thank you for
Speedy,
joining.
how are you?
Nice to see you.
No, good fill-in for Tom.
Yeah, I'm good at filling in for Tom. I enjoy filling in for Tom. He's on important bushfire reporting duties this afternoon. But I'm sure what he would be focused on is the big issues today. Gladys Liu, your colleague, your Victorian colleague, been in a bit of hot water. How would you describe her performance last night with Andrew Bolt?
I actually felt she was a bit ambushed. I think she went on in good faith on the interview. A series of propositions were put to her, which were, how we put it, misrepresentations, I think, of the Australian position.
How
Australian government. Well, because what was put to her was that Australia had said that the Chinese government's claims over South China Sea was theft, when in fact that's not, and that was the Australian government position. That actually isn't the Australian government position. We actually believe in the rule of law, international rule-based order. We're of course challenging decisions.
Well, I'll check the transcript as to whether Andrew actually said that was the Australian government's position. But
I think I don't want to verbal Andrew in response either, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said when I reviewed it. Okay. And so if I got that wrong, I apologise, Andrew. But that's. But the reality is, I think her position, she clarified it today, was quite clear that she supports the Australian government's position. That's the right thing to do, obviously.
What is the Australian government's position? Well,
the Australian government's position is that we don't decide these terms. These are decided by courts, and we support the consideration of these matters by courts. Obviously, we want the South China Sea to be open.
But it has been considered by the court, by the International Court of Arbitration, and it's been found, well, they found against China.
Yeah, so we respect the rules and law.
Sea unlawful?
Well, fundamentally, that's basically the position, yes, because we have a position, but that's not the same as saying theft. We have a situation where courts have made those decisions. We support the courts in their decision-making. We want free movement and free navigation in those in those waters, and that's been the position of the government all along. Well,
does Labor see it any differently?
Well, no, obviously Labor also supports the ruling of the International Court that China is undertaking illegal activities. I don't agree with Tim that Gladys was ambushed. I think she's got some splaining to do on her position there, and I think that, you know, if you're a member
So you don't accept her position that she explained in a statement that she supports the Australian government position?
She refused to say that China was carrying out illegal activities on more than one occasion.
So she said that she supports the Australian government position?
I don't think she was ambushed. Does she know what the Australian government position was at the time?
Well, she does.
Well, I have no idea.
I don't see evidence of that in that interview.
Well, she was also put to, as I go to the point, she was put to a series of propositions about what the position of the Australian government was.
Okay, so the question I found, I've been going through the transcript here, okay. The question from Andrew Bolt was, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague has said that China taking over the South China Sea was unlawful. Do you agree it was unlawful? His next question. The government's position, of course, is that the theft was unlawful.
So you used the word theft, and that's
unlawful.
And that's his word.
Also used the word unlawful.
The Australian government uses the word theft.
No, well, I think by inference, and so if that is the misinterpretation on my part, I apologise to Andrew, but that's not the intention or the spirit. The point of it is that it was propositions were put to her in words that I suspect she wouldn't use. She's made it quite clear and clarified that.
I think the more problematic thing was...
So now we're just going around.
Okay, the more problematic part of the interview, I thought, was not being able to remember last night whether she'd been a part of these various organisations linked to China. Today, suddenly, she is able to list all the membership she's had. I mean, do you buy that?
Well, what I buy is that her very clear statement in today that she is aware that she had honorary positions with these organisations. She's asked to not be associated with them, and she's made it quite clear in her statement. I think that's the basis in which people can take it in good faith.
She couldn't find this out when it had been running in the media for a long time. She agrees to do an interview last night to talk about it, and she couldn't remember last night?
Well, I don't believe she said anything in that interview in bad faith, and I hope you're not accusing her of that. She's clarified that's in a statement today, and I think that hopefully will clarify...
I'm just struggling to understand how that happens.
Well, these are the questions you have to refer to her, but she's made it clear in her statement.
You don't find it curious, is what I'm asking?
Well, I find lots of things very curious.
You find this curious that someone...
Well, I find lots of things curious. I find how Sam Dastyari, for instance, could go in front of a lectern with the Commonwealth coat of arms behind him and basically support the Chinese government's appropriation of South China Sea.
And he lost his job over it.
Yeah, well, he should have.
Right?
He betrayed our country.
So where is the test here of Scott Morrison's leadership on this case?
Oh, please.
And we can sit... No, Tim, we can sit here and dissect that interview all we like. But the bigger issue here...
Has she betrayed our country like Sam Dastyari has?
You're using those terms,
has she notified
betrayed those.
intelligence agencies that they were recording bits of information about somebody who was not an Australian national? Sam Dastyari betrayed this country. To draw equivalence is the most disgraceful gutter politics on your part and Mark Dreyfus' part, and you ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
When the whole thing went down with Sam Dastyari,
yes,
Malcolm Turnbull stood up and said it was a test of Bill Shorten's leadership.
Because it was.
Today, in question time,
He betrayed
Scott Morrison, the
Australia.
Prime Minister, was asked questions. The Prime Minister was also asked questions about Mrs. Liu and about what went down in that interview and about all of the associations that she had, and he refuses to answer to those. Now, I think you can draw all the equivalences all you like, but the fact is...
Did she betray Australia? No. Did Sam Dastyari? Yes. That's the difference.
You don't think...
Do you understand the difference?
We don't know, because Gladys hasn't answered the questions.
We know he betrayed Australia.
The questions, and we need the Prime Minister to stand up.
We know he betrayed Australia.
Let me just jump in here. To the point that Tim's vigorously making, that there's a difference here. Sam Dastyari, we know, took donations and took a loan for his own personal legal bills, and he did stand at that press conference and echo the Chinese line on the South China Sea. That is of a different scale than what we're talking about here, at least on the evidence we have.
I agree with you, different scale. But both are issues that sought further investigation and further answers to further questions. We are asking for the same thing in this case. The Prime Minister is refusing to investigate and refusing to look into the issue any further. And I think this issue warrants further investigation.
Well, do we know that? The Prime Minister's not looking further?
He refused to say that he would in question time today.
These are the first things I've heard about it from Anne.
Well, OK.
Were you in question time?
I was.
There you go.
We'll move on from this, but do you think there is a need for anyone, be it the Prime Minister, be it an intelligence agency, whoever, to have a good look at any of these connections that Gladys Liu has had with these organisations?
Well, the intelligence agencies look at these matters all the time and through the different organisations.
The assumption would be that they are looking or have looked.
It doesn't matter who you are. If there are these bodies, there's a strong framework. We've introduced foreign interference laws to look at exactly these sorts of issues, no matter who you are.
And the Foreign Minister did say in the Senate this afternoon, you wouldn't have seen this, but she said it was an offensive suggestion from Labor's Penny Wong that Gladys Liu was not fit and proper to sit in Parliament. Do you accept the Foreign Minister's...
I personally don't like attacks on the person, but I think that this is a situation that warrants further investigation.
So you're not sure whether she is a fit and proper person to sit in Parliament?
I'm not going to make that determination. It's not for me to make those determinations, David, and I don't make determinations on people's individual character.
Well, she's been elected by the people of Chisholm. That's the test.
Yes. Well, OK, and that's the only test, is it?
Well, but that's the test that we've had until there are allegations, and so far they've amounted to an interview.
So you're confident that she's a fit and proper person to be in Parliament?
Well, no, I mean, if there are any matters or allegations that are substantiated, they should go through and be managed in the normal way. But in the end, the test, and so far all we have is...
On basis of what you know, you're...
Well, based on what we know, she's clarified them today, and that's the basis of her statement, and that's the way we should be dealing with it.